Well, hello, America. It's 3rd of July here today in New Zealand. Beautiful day. And looks like all the crazy stuff. The 4th of July is going to be one that you'll never forget, I think. So I think I will just mainly play what I've found on the Pete Santilli show. Move my gorgeous Nico. I want to show you something though, because at the end we're talking about, do you remember these Walmarts? So this is one of my leaflets that I put out, that 2015 or something like that, and it showed the Lord's perfect sign and the blood moons that were predicting the return of Jesus. Everyone was thinking it was the rapture, but of course that didn't happen. But at the same time, all these Walmarts were closed down and they were turned into these incredible looking, see the towers? Can you see that? Places that looked just like concentration camps, and now we can see why, and what a bullet we have dodged. And praise the Lord, for Donald Trump and those people behind the scenes. My husband gave me a bottle cap last night off a wine bottle with one on, so there's a sign for you. So I'm just going to leave it to Pete Santilli, and at the end of it we've got Colonel McGregor, who is one of the colonels, one of the big shots in charge of this operation. So here is Pete, and it's pretty exciting stuff, all following of course the big joke of the so-called presidential debate.
Calling it Operation 3423. Oh my goodness, I can't put this woman on hold. Hold on one second. I gotta take this. Yes, and I will. Is it okay if I put you on speakerphone on camera because I'm live? Yeah, got it.
So obviously she said no. And he comes back with a very worrying announcement.
That was thank you very much. That was an emergency call. Okay, an emergency call. It's literally an emergency call. I'm going to be meeting with you guys. I'm not joking. All right. I was just told I'm going to be meeting with the powers that be, military people. Oh. Okay, this is very serious because of this, and do not underestimate what I'm about to say here. We are literally, right now, with Joe Biden in office, he's got the nuclear codes. People dismiss that. They talk about Tulsi Gabbard, being the or Nikki Haley or whatever, whoever. I mean, people are saying crazy stuff.
You want her to have the...
No. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff. They're like, no, you know what? You got Mark Cuban out there. You know what he says?
What?
Well, Joe Biden can't pull up his pants, but Trump lied.
I know. It's
right?
ridiculous.
They're all out there admitting that Joe Biden doesn't have the mental capacity to function, but President Trump lied. That's what they said. Yeah, buts. Okay? All of his executive orders should be null and void for his entire presidency.
I'd like to know what he lied about.
Huh?
I'd like to know what he lied about.
I won't. I'm more focused on having Biden removed, because he has the nuclear codes. He has... us on the verge of war with Russia, and he also has an open border that has us in a terror alert that's already being deemed by the House chairman, the Select Committee chairman, saying we're at the highest level of terror threat. We have an incapacitated Joe Biden that has a border wide open that has us at a terror threat level. Well, guess what? If any of those cells activate, guess what happens? This gets triggered right here. It is a National Emergencies Act, all right? When that is triggered, guess what else? Barack Obama has a whole bunch of executive orders. You want me to tell you what they are? This is very serious, folks. Do not listen to anybody that says, well, we're winning. Let's leave Joe Biden in. No, you don't. Not for 1 millisecond. You know why? Because all they have to do is to create an event let me tell you what Merrick Garland is in charge of. Per the Emergencies Act and per the Federal Continuity Directive, the Attorney General determines who the national security threats are. Okay? And those national security ladies and gentlemen, this is documented. I have it in writing in the Federal Continuity Directive that once the Attorney General establishes who the national security threats are, guess what happens to them? They get rounded up by the hundreds of thousands and brought to FEMA camps. Who has Attorney General Merrick Garland deemed to be national security threats? The domestic violent extremists. Okay? The pretext for that was January 6th. That government operation was setting the stage. Now, Merrick Garland, guess what he did? He changed how the government gathers data on domestic violent extremists. Did you know that? And guess what he said in his declaration? He said that the pursuit of domestic violent extremists is going to be more broadly. It's going to be opened up a little bit. Okay, it's not going to be restrictive, and he's allowed the DOJ and the FBI on a more broad basis to gather data, to target, profile, and once a national emergency is declared, those individuals are national security threats and they go right to a FEMA camp.
Correct.
This is a fact.
Yep.
Okay? We're not messing around here. So I'm going to ask everybody right now, I'm going to play it again. Colonel McGregor's message calling for an election. That's what we need to call for. So for those of you that say, we're going to wait till we're not waiting for November. It can be done immediately. We need to stop the bus right now, call for the election, all right? And let, I'm going to say this. I am going to say this. It's very appropriate. I'm not going to pick on Joe Biden for his mental capacity. I'm just not going to.
On.
Huh?
I said, come on. Is it really picking
No,
on
let me
him,
finish my statement.
Yeah.
Let me finish. Let the man leave with dignity. I'm not going to exploit his mental capacity, but guess what? I will not tolerate it. And all of his executive orders are going to be null and void. I'm not going to pick on Joe Biden. I'm going to pick on his filling the seat, the presidency, in a rigged election. Okay? And they put somebody in place that I believe was intentionally placed there without the mental capacity to be signing executive orders. They know this. He was surrounded by all these people. Hunter Biden has been his handler. Hunter Biden works for the CIA. The Central Intelligence Agency has been managing the geriocracy to get the unelected bureaucratic state positioned for where we are right now. If today a terror attack occurs, all of you that like Trump go to a FEMA camp. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. This is our current state of affairs. Now let's go back. Again, I'm going to put him up on the screen once again. Colonel McGregor, you're going to text Republic to 844-837-9924. I have saved, let me save it to Republic first. Republic, I saved the link that I'm going to read to you after we hear from Colonel McGregor. I'm saving the changes right now. That link is in the text. And now you're going to hear from Colonel McGregor. And Colonel McGregor is calling for an election. That's the appropriate thing to do constitutionally, I believe. Does anybody disagree with that? We need an election, and we need that now. Now. Here we go. I'm going to rewind it and play it for everybody coming on right now. Here it is. Mr. Audio Boy, let's turn on the audio. There we go.
Americans, the media worked closely with the White House to conceal the truth that was on display last night. President Biden is not fit to discharge the immense duties of the presidency. The alarming evidence of his cognitive decline was on display for all to witness. Yet his enablers and political allies continue to exploit the president to substitute their destructive agenda for the interests of the American people. The unconscionable betrayal of the sacred trust that must exist between the federal government and American citizens is all around us. Destructive executive orders and policy directives, many of which were likely signed when President Biden was in a rapidly diminished state of mind, inflicted tremendous damage on our nation. By opening our southern border, unelected men and women in the White House allowed millions of migrants to illegally enter our country. To these must be added lethal drugs like fentanyl and the endless numbers of human traffickers surging into our communities, jeopardizing the safety and security of our families, especially our children. The executive orders related to energy policy prioritized the demands of climate change advocates over the needs of hardworking Americans. The outcome is skyrocketing energy costs and the end of our energy independence. This is not governance. This is pandering. Reckless spending and money printing has triggered record high inflation. This is not the leadership we deserve. The deliberate subversion of the presidency also extends to foreign and defense policy. President Biden's manipulators fueled a proxy war in Ukraine that risks drawing us into a catastrophic confrontation with nuclear-armed Russia. Their unqualified support for Israel's disproportionate actions in Gaza erodes our moral authority and credibility as a champion of peace and stability. These actions drained our defense resources and compromised our moral standing in the world. Sadly, President Biden's fragile mental state was laid bare for all to see in last night's debate. His responses were frequently incoherent. He appeared lost, even confused, struggling to complete basic thoughts. It was heartbreaking, a spectacle that confirmed our worst fears about his deteriorating capacity. No individual whose mental health is compromised should be allowed to continue in the most demanding job on earth. Americans, we find ourselves at a critical juncture in our nation's journey. In the private sector or in matters of estate planning, the validity of signatures made under such circumstances would be challenged and invalidated in a court of law. How can we accept crucial national decisions being made under these conditions? The American people deserve better. It is time to ask, who truly governs this country? Is it we the people, as our founders intended, or have we surrendered control to unelected bureaucrats, sprawling federal agencies and affluent donors who do not have the best interests of ordinary Americans at heart? To secure the blessings of liberty for this generation and those to come, we must reclaim the rightful sovereignty of the American people over a dysfunctional and unresponsive political establishment. We cannot tolerate more aimless, self-defeating leadership and unaccountable governance. We confront existential threats at home, and the Biden administration has cultivated hatred and hostility to the United States abroad. President Biden should retire with grace and dignity and not be cruelly exploited in the twilight of his life. To say it's a national shame is an understatement. This travesty should end immediately. It is now obvious that the governing power to determine our nation's destiny lies in unelected hands. Americans must raise their voices in opposition to this administration. The power belongs to the American people. We must signal our discontent with policies we did not vote for. Open borders, wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, soaring inflation, uncontrolled immigration, and demand the right to register our indignation at the ballot box. In view of the questionable legitimacy of the many executive orders issued under President Biden's signature, Americans should consider holding the presidential election early. It's time for Americans to demand a new government that is legitimate, one that is devoted to peace abroad and prosperity at home. It is a time for unity, a time to go forward and begin the next chapter of the most remarkable story ever told, the story of the United States of America. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and may God bless these United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to read to you, is in the hands under review of Colonel McGregor and a group of others. I'm going to say Colonel McGregor as the front face of this thing. You heard him called for a new election. This is very serious, folks. There is no political solution right now. There is no political solution to the problems that we have. Let me review again. Number one, he has possession of the nuclear codes.
No,
That's
he
a fact.
doesn't.
That's a problem. Okay, number two, he has us on the precipice of war directly with Russia, nuclear armed Russia. Okay. Number three, the border's wide open, and we are now at the highest terrorist threat that exists. That is deemed to be by the Federal Bureau of Investigators Director Christopher Wray, as well as the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence Chair himself. He's come out publicly, he says it should be declassified, that a terror threat exists, that there are terrorists within the interior of the United States. If any of those terror cells are activated, here's the fourth item. The powers under the National Emergencies Act, with one stroke of a pen, okay? If an incident takes place, which you know that they have concerns about the AK-47 parts that have been distributed here into the United States, they're concerned about 10 to 15-year-olds being armed.
Okay, so later on in this, it goes through everything that the powers that Barack gave himself and...
Don't have the capacity to even save yourself. That's what they want for you.
Yeah, well, the reason I reacted.
Okay, so look it up. You can find that on Rumble. And yeah, it certainly sounds like we missed this. We've got those in Australia as well, apparently all over the place. So that's where they were going. But of course now, as they're talking about they're actually just coming out saying to assassinate him and everything like that, that you can expect something will happen. So doubt it's going to go down easy, but be prepared. And as he says in here, make sure you're on Twitter, because this platform, of course, is so heavily censored and watched that any item, any news that you're going to get is only going to be available on Twitter. So he emphasises at the beginning of this program. I'll put this link here, I really will, and you go and get on to Twitter to keep yourself informed of what's about to happen. So have a great 4th of July. I know that I'm going to. Bye-bye.